Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the Canelo versus Berlanga breakdown video. Saul Canelo Alvarez, the reigning face of boxing, the unified super middleweight champion of the world, returns on Saturday, September 14th to defend his three super middleweight titles against undefeated contender Edgar Berlanga. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. We got Little True Boxing here with me.
Hi.
Checking out the videos, watch me do my thing. So let's get into it. So we start with this fight here. And, you know, if you haven't seen my breakdown videos before, I look at the fight, how big it is, what I think about the matchup itself, and then we get into each fighter individually. In a title fight like this, we'll start with the champion, which is Canelo, and then we'll work our way to the challenger and break the fight down. Now, and then at the end, I'll give, you know, I'll ask one final question, and then I'll also give my prediction on the fight. So let's jump into it. Let's start with the fight itself. What do I think about this fight? I'm really not that excited for this fight, to be honest. You know, most people know I'm a Canelo fan, but I'm really disappointed in the opponent selection here. I really thought he should have been fighting David Benavidez, you know, this year. He's not going to end up fighting David, but he could have fought 5 or 6 guys better than Berlanga that are more deserving. Berlanga hasn't done anything to deserve this fight, and it's a gift, and it's also, he wants to sell the Mexico versus Puerto Rico you know, rivalry and stuff. So, you know, that's what Canelo is, that's the excuse for taking on Berlanga. But again, I'm not too excited about the fight. Now, in terms of their height, weight, reach, age, Berlanga is 7 years younger. He is about 4.5 inches taller, and he's got a 2.5 inch reach advantage on Canelo. He's undefeated. He's 22-0 at 17 knockouts. Canelo, though, has been the reigning #1 fighter in this division for a long time now, and we're gonna see, you know, how it all shakes out on September 14th on pay-per-view. So let's jump into starting with Canelo Alvarez, and what we normally do is we look at their last 3 fights. So we start with his last 3 fights. They date back to May of last year in 2022 or 2023 when he battled John Ryder of the United Kingdom. He dominated Ryder, beat him up, knocked him down a couple times, en route to a one-sided 12-round unanimous decision to retain the undisputed title at that point. Then he returned in September of last year and took on undisputed 154-pound champion Jermell Charlo, and he dominated him to a one-sided shutout 12-round unanimous decision to retain the undisputed title. And then earlier this year, he took on undefeated former junior middleweight champion Jaime Munguia and scored a hard-fought but deserving, you know, I mean, he outworked and outclassed Munguia to a 12-round unanimous decision to retain the undisputed title. So, you know, he's comfortable. He's rolling, you know. He had a good, solid performance against Munguia, who I considered to be the #3 super middleweight in the world at the time. And I definitely think this is a step back fight for him. But I think he's coming in knowing that Berlanga is probably not on his level, and he just wants to get him out of there. So this could be the first knockout that you've seen from Canelo since he knocked out Caleb Plant back in 2021. So it should be an interesting, you know, should be interesting to see how Canelo is rolling into this fight and how serious he's going to take it. What does he need to do to win this fight? Well, you know, again, Berlanga has the age, 7-year age difference, and he's got the height and reach advantage, but that doesn't really matter to Canelo. This is not the first time he's fought a longer and taller fighter. I think Canelo needs to just go in there and break his opponent down. A body attack, wear him down, land good hard counter shots, you know, and just bust up Edgar Berlanga. That's what he needs to do in order to beat Berlanga and wear him down. You know, Berlanga has been to decisions in the 4 of the last 5 times out, so he's gotten his rounds in, but he hasn't really been tested late in a fight, and he's never been in the ring with somebody on Canelo's level, and Canelo needs to try to take advantage of that. Can Canelo win this fight by knockout? Absolutely, I think he can. I think he can hurt Berlanga, and I think he could knock him out. Can he win by a decision? Yeah, for sure. He can win a decision. I think he's the superior boxer in this one easily, so he definitely could win a decision. Can Canelo... All right, so what's the more likely thing, that he wins by knockout or wins by a decision? I think it could go either way, 50-50, but I really think a knockout is definitely possible for Canelo in this fight, and I see him winning more by a knockout than a decision, but he could win by either way. What does a win mean for Canelo? Not much, to be honest. Berlanga is not on Canelo's level. This shouldn't really be a fight. Not a lot of people are excited about it, so a win really doesn't mean a lot towards Canelo's legacy here. What does a loss mean? A loss would be devastating for Canelo. I mean, he cannot lose to a guy like Berlanga, or nobody's going to have him in the pound-for-pound discussion anymore, and you know he's just not that guy anymore. You know, but so a loss would definitely hurt Canelo in this fight. He really can't afford that, especially with him talking recently about potentially moving to 175 for a rematch with Dimitri Bivol for the undisputed light heavyweight title. He wants that fight. He cannot lose this fight to Berlanga. So now we switch over to the challenger, the undefeated Edgar Berlanga, and break him down. Rolling into this fight, Berlanga hasn't been super active the last couple years. His last 3 fights date back to June of 2022, when he beat Romer Angulo by a 10-round decision. He outworked him in that one. He took on Jason Quigley in June of last year, 2023, and had to go the full distance. He went 12 rounds with him, scoring a decision, and he actually struggled a little bit in that fight, but he knocked Quigley down 4 times also, and got the victory. But a lot of people were underwhelmed by that, because a lot of people thought if he was on the level, he should have wasted Quigley and got him out of there, which he didn't. But this year he broke his decision, his 4 or 5 fight straight decision streak, when he knocked out Predrag McCrory, who is an undefeated fighter, and you know, stayed on the mission. And we knew he was being lobbied as a potential opponent for Canelo, and now he's got it. So rolling into this fight, I mean, I don't know how much Berlanga thinks he can actually win this fight. You know, I think he knows he hasn't been in there with really anybody close to Canelo. I think he's coming in really excited about the payday, but I really think he's way in over his head. I don't think he knows what he's getting into in this fight. But, you know, is he hungry? I'm sure he is, but I just don't see that fire in Berlanga that you see in a lot of challengers. So, you know, just, again, he's hungry. You get an opportunity against a guy like Canelo, you want to take advantage of that, but does he really believe he can beat Canelo? I don't know. I really don't know, and I haven't seen it in anything that he says either. I don't believe him, is what I'm saying. Now, you know, what does he need to do to win the fight against Canelo? I mean, he said it. The one thing I agreed with, he said he needs to use a jab. I think a jab would work, but he's got to be able to, like, every time Canelo gets off, he really needs to go back and look at what Dimitri Bivol did to Canelo when he beat him, to learn how to beat Canelo. The jab, and also throw combinations before Canelo gets started. That would really help him. But he also needs to be ready to fight 12 hard rounds, because Canelo's going to push him to the limit. He really is. So I think that's his key. He needs to try to land something significant to let Canelo know that he's got real power, to try to keep Canelo off of him. And that could be a key to success. Now, can Berlanga win this fight by knockout? I don't think so. Canelo's got a great chin. I've never even seen him hurt outside of very early in his career when he was super young. So I just don't think Berlanga hasn't showed me that one-punch power he had when he was fighting C and D level opponents. He hasn't really shown that kind of power in his last 4 or 5 fights, and those guys have been B level at best opponents. So I don't think he can knock Canelo out. Can he win a decision? I mean, maybe. I don't see him beating Canelo if it goes 12 rounds by a decision, but you never know. I mean, it's boxing. You never know. What's more likely, a decision or a knockout? I think a decision would be more likely for Berlanga, maybe outworking Canelo in a close battle. That's the only way I could see him winning, or the more likely way I see him winning. What does a win mean for Edgar Berlanga? It means everything. I mean, it totally turns his world around and makes him an elite fighter. If he can beat Canelo and become the unified super middleweight champion of the world, it probably gets him a rematch with Canelo, which is another big payday. But it puts him on the map, and it keeps him on the map for good, because he'll be the guy that beat Canelo and took the titles. So that even a loss to Canelo in a rematch, he'll always be that guy. So a win would mean everything for Edgar Berlanga in this fight. What does a loss mean for Berlanga in this fight? I mean, I don't really think anybody's expecting him to win. So it depends on how he loses. If he comes in and he gets the shit kicked out of him against Canelo, nobody's going to be surprised, but he drops back down, and, you know, maybe he'll still be somewhat of a name, or people will want to fight him, but he's not going to be taken super serious. But if he comes in and fights well against Canelo and loses a close decision, or he's in the fight and then gets stopped late, I think he's going to earn respect, and people are going to base him on a certain level, and, you know, he's going to be considered a legitimate contender. Right now, he's not considered to be a legitimate contender. If he can prove himself enough to where he's at least a legitimate contender, that'll bode well for him going forward. But, you know, again, nobody's really expecting him to win, so I really don't think a loss hurts him all that much. But again, it depends on how he loses. So the last couple things. First, is it better for boxing if Canelo Alvarez retains his unified title, or if Edgar Berlanga becomes the new champion? And that's an easy one to answer. It's better for boxing if Canelo continues on his march. He's the face of boxing. He brings in the money, the big money fights. People pay to watch him fight, no matter what, no matter against who. Sadly, that's true, because it doesn't matter who Canelo fights. You know, he gets a big turnout. A lot of people watch him fight. So it's absolutely better for boxing if Canelo stays on that level and wins this fight. It wouldn't be bad to see a new star in Edgar Berlanga, but I think it would hurt boxing more, because Canelo's such a big star. And you don't want to see Canelo be unseated against a guy like Berlanga. You know, if it was Benavidez, if it was somebody a little bit more prominent who has established himself a little bit more, then I could see that wouldn't hurt boxing so much. But this would really hurt boxing if Berlanga were to win. But it still would be good, you know, in a sense, because he's young and undefeated. So, but absolutely, for sure, it's better if Canelo wins. So now my final prediction: who do I think is going to win this unified super middleweight title fight between Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga? And I got to go with Canelo. Like, this one's an easy pick for me. I think Canelo's going to dominate. I think he's going to break down Edgar Berlanga. I think he's going to stop him probably, I'd say, between rounds 6 and 8 or 9. I think somewhere in those middle rounds, after just busting him up and landing good counter shots, he can get him out of there. He might even be able to finish him within 6 rounds. I mean, that's how much of a mismatch I think this is. Berlanga just doesn't have the experience. And I haven't seen enough of him skill-wise to believe that he can stand in the same ring and trade with Canelo for longer than half of the fight competitively. And I don't even know how competitive it's going to be out of the gate. So he's a long shot to win. A super underdog is Berlanga. But again, you never know what can happen in boxing. But I'm absolutely picking Canelo Alvarez to score the first knockout of his career. I mean, the first knockout since 2021, when he knocked out Caleb Plant to become the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. I think this is going to be his first knockout since then. So I got him winning by knockout, round 7, 8, 9 in that area, and he'll stay the unified super middleweight champion of the world. So again, Saturday, September 14th, this is the breakdown video for Canelo versus Berlanga for the unified super middleweight championship of the world on pay-per-view. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. This is True Boxing.
And this is Little True Boxing.
And
you've been hit by the truth.
You've been hit with the truth.